Exodus. All right, let's do it. Exodus. We are going through our Exodus journey, and as we talk through this idea of being stuck between, did you see this work this week? We introduced this last week. And so, is this what life felt like this week? Sometimes when you kind of frame things like that, did you feel stuck at all this week? I know I heard from some people felt stuck with just kind of what work was bringing them this week. They just had to get things done. No, not for some of us. We're like, peace out, we're done. And then some of us felt stuck by family issues, things that had to get done within our relationships and our families. Some of us feel stuck between our own ears, right? This time, this pandemic time that we have, I was listening this week to a psychologist talk about recent studies that have come out, just studying us, Americans, during this COVID period. And it wasn't a study finding, but it was his intuition, his expert opinion, was after reading all these things and seeing what's happening around us, he believes that 1 out of 4 of us probably have a diagnosable mental health condition right now. 1 out of 4. If there are 4 people in your family, somebody is struggling. I hear everybody in church is like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Instead of 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, because that's sometimes how we feel, right? But fully 20% of us, whereas that was, a tenth of that before. This has been a really hard time. We feel really stuck. This has been a really challenging time, just outside of the regular life challenges. We've all experienced ways that we've lost things that we've loved, that would have happened regardless of a pandemic. But then being stuck in our houses and our minds with the same people that we do truly love, but maybe drive us crazy after being with them all the time, we feel very stuck. And one of the questions that we get to, one of the questions we've had to deal with, was how to value these two really important things, right? You see, our title this week is Me and Us. Do you feel stuck between this idea of me and stuck between the idea of us? Do you feel stuck between your personal values, freedoms, responsibilities, and your community, family, relationship, obligations, responsibilities, and opportunities? And how do we make that work? I think we feel stuck. We don't know how to answer those questions all the time. What we're going to see today is that as we look through how God shepherded his people through the Exodus journey, he never left them. He showed them great care and love, and he gave them a way to discern times when we feel stuck between me and us. All right, let's get to it. This is our main question. It is hard to discern whether it's more important to be true to ourselves or true to our community. Anybody stuck here? Anybody have to make a decision lately how this works? Anybody judged others for the way that they think they made this decision? Yes, I imagine the same psychologist, if he were able to do the studies on how judgmental we've become of other people over this time, I bet that's gone up quite a bit as well. We see the choices that people are making regarding themselves or our community, and we automatically assume something about them or about their decision-making process. It is hard to discern in our own heads what is more important. What do you think? Is it more important to be true to ourselves or to be true to our community? Last week you guys had lots of answers for me. This week it's a little more silent. Why is that? Because we really struggle with this. We want to tell people, we want to tell ourselves, be true to ourselves, be true to who God has made us to be. And at the same time, when we do that, we find that it butts up against other people being true to themselves. It butts up against the values and the norms that our society, not just our American culture, but even our church culture, our church norms and society, our family norms and society. This is a hard question. Today, I'm not giving you a value judgment on those things, that you should be one or the other. Our question is, how do we choose? How do we choose? How do we weigh those up? Today is a question about process and not about outcomes. Does that make sense? It's about process and not outcomes. How do we discern? How do we make that choice? And what we're going to see is that in this Exodus story, God continually meets with his people. He wants to be a part of this process. He wants to be a physical part of this process, not just some ethereal pie in the sky thing. That's not what God is. God is the God of the here and the now. God is the God of the incarnation, the one who comes to his people to be with them all the way from the very beginning. Through the Exodus story, we're going to see that he meets Moses and his people at Mount Sinai. They break some promises and are restored, and they create a traveling tent of meeting. Fascinating. So last week we left off the Exodus story with the Israelites being brought out of the promised land. They crossed the Red Sea on dry land. They were saved from Pharaoh's army. God said, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to lead you by a cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night. I'm going to give you manna from heaven every morning that you can collect and eat. It's going to provide for you even when you're in the middle of a desert. And when you need water, I'm going to give you water. I'm going to take care of everything for you. And I'm going to give you a path. I'm going to show you a way. So, if you were with them during this time of wandering, this time of being stuck between Egypt and the promised land, would you be feeling okay? You have all the food you need. You have all the water you need. You have your friends and family around you. You got to walk a little bit. Yeah, that's true. But, you're probably closing your rings, so it's all right. Getting your 10,000 steps in. It's all good. You'd think it would be okay. And yet we see continually that as people sit in this condition, as they feel stuck, they start to make decisions that aren't consistent with their values. They start to make decisions that push them away from who they truly are and away from God. So as they're going throughout this journey, they end up going to Mount Sinai first. And here we pick up the story in Exodus chapter 19. The people approach this mountain called Sinai, and God calls to them and says, send Moses up to me. I will give him my commandments to you. I will come and meet you. So God descended like a cloud onto the mountain, his physical presence, from the heavenly realms into the physical realm, right? There is no separation like we think of, right? The physical and the heavenly are just completely separate. There's reality and then there's fantasy, right? That's what some people say. That doesn't exist. That's not an idea in the Bible. The Bible is there are these two realms, the heavenly and the physical realm, but they are connected. God connects them. And at different points, he connects them himself. This is what we believe, by the way, about our sacraments, about baptism, communion. That those are times when heaven and earth break in together, that God comes and says, this is new, this is special, this is heavenly and physical all at the same time. So the cloud descends on the mountain. God is there. And Moses goes up to God, and the Lord calls him from the mountain and said, this is what you are to say to all the descendants of Jacob, my people, right, the Israelites, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves, this is you plural, right? Y'all, all y'all, right? You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt. You have seen how I carried you on eagle's wings. Famous song, guess where it comes from, right? There we go. On eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. God bringing this people to himself. Now, if you shema me, right? If you obey me fully and keep my covenant, my promise, my contract with you, then out of all nations, you will be my most treasured possession. Pretty good deal, huh? All right? Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So how does God approach his people? He says, look, this is what I have done for you. Right? I have done all these. You walked through dry land. You walked as the sea parted around you. Do you not believe? What more do you need? When you listen to me, I will make you the greatest of all. I will make sure that you are connected to me all the time. And all of this language here, do you see this? All of this is about God coming to his people. Not his people coming to God, right? It's all about this is what I have done for you. This is how I will keep you to myself. This is how I will take care of you. Now just listen to me, right? This is what every parent dreams of. Yes? I will love you. I will take care of you. I will provide for you. I will teach you the right things. I will give you the wisdom that I've learned. I'll show you the mistakes that I made and how you can avoid them. Just listen to me. And what happens to us parents through that? We endure lots of heartbreak, don't we? Yeah. There's a lot of joy too, don't get me wrong, but we remember the heartbreak. God's going to experience the same thing because people are not perfect. But this is what we hold on to. This is the process. This is what God is doing in our midst. He says when we are stuck between two things, when we are stuck between trying to make sense of this world, I have shown you my love already. Remember that. Make that your identity. Form who you are and your values on that you are deeply and greatly loved by God. And he says, I declare you my segulah. This is the Hebrew word for most treasured possession. Segulah. I declare you. I am making you. Not because you are great or special or did the right things or said the right words, but because you are the one that I have chosen. You are the one that I have saved. You are a treasure to me. Think about that for a moment. When you have felt worthless, when you have felt isolated, when you have felt like there's nothing that you could do that would make a difference in anybody else's life, God declares to you that you are his most treasured possession, that you have value and worth in his eyes to start with. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says or what people have said to you or about you. He says, and about you, he says, you are a treasure. Upon that you can build. When you let that sink into who you are, you build upon it. And through that, you're able to do incredible things as you follow him. This is who we are. We are loved by God. We are his most treasured possessions. That is our identity. That is who we are. Oh, wait a second. Is that true? Is that who we are? Or is that who you are? Is this about me or is this about us? Let's see where this goes. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around to Aaron, his right-hand man, right, and said, "Come, make some gods for us who will lead us, who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him." In a short period of time, a matter of weeks, the people have turned from seeing the God who was the cloud and the pillar of fire who led them to saying, well, let's make some physical gods who can just do this for us. We can put them up on poles or banners and just carry them out as we go. We want to see those because that's what everybody else around us has. I love this quote. As for this fellow Moses, what a great translation. This nobody, who was he really? Does anybody really remember who Moses was? So what do? They convince Aaron, who didn't take much convincing, to create a golden calf. This is a story of the golden calf. This idol that they wanted to worship instead of the God who was physically present with them on the mountain. They could see his cloud. They could feel the rumbling of the thunder. And yet their eyes were turned outward because they didn't see what they were getting out of it. They couldn't see that being a part of God's family, this bigger us, this bigger community, was more important than the needs and the wants and the desires that they wanted to have right there and then. They put their own needs, their own pride before the entire community and convinced others to follow and go along. So what happens, you think, when this happens? The God who is there talking to Moses should rightly do what? What should he do? If you had an employee who did this to you, where you worked, who basically caused a coup in your office, tried to get other people to go along with it, what would you do? You would fire them. And you would have all the grounds and the justification to do so. You would be right in doing so. However, God is not primarily our boss, right? He doesn't view himself as our boss, our manager. He doesn't view us as working for him to get a product delivered or created or a service created. He views us as a treasured possession. He views us as his children, his family. And so his question for us in this process, before he pronounces a judgment, is, are you going to follow yourself, or are you going to follow me? Are you going to believe that the community that I have created, that God is declaring upon them, that you will be my people, you descendants of Jacob, I will be your God, we will work together, I will bring you into the promised land, I will give you this land full of milk and honey, your descendants will be blessed for all of time, and I will make you a kingdom of priests, people who can see God and experience him just for themselves. I will do this for you, God says. Is that more important than what you want in your heart? You have to choose. How do we choose? Which one of these statements is correct? You is greater than us, or us is greater than you. Which one is right? Which one is correct? You guys are silent today. With good reason. Is either one of them correct over against the other? It's not, is it? It's not. Because within all of these us statements, these us community statements, includes you. There is no way that God has not said that you, individually, on your own, are his most treasured possession. He says that. But he never leaves it at that. He includes you within the larger community. By being you, you have an us. And the us is made up of a lot of me's and you's. It works together. This idea that we have to play ourselves, our personal freedoms, our personal liberties, our personal needs and wants against the needs and wants and liberties and responsibilities of a community is a way to get us to fight, is a way to get us to argue. Some of that arguing is healthy, right? Because in our imperfect selves, as people who would, if we were on our own, build a golden calf and say, let's go our own way, we need to be held in check by others who are around us, who know who they are as well. Because sometimes when we've been wrong individually, we relied on the people we trust to tell us so and to turn us around. And when others have been wrong, they've relied on us to do the same thing. We need that together. So to say my personal needs, wants, desires, responsibilities, and freedoms are more important than the community's needs, wants, desires, and freedoms and responsibilities is irresponsible. To say the community's needs, wants, responsibilities, needs, and values are more important than mine is irresponsible. They have to work together. They have to play together. The voices around you that try to get you to say that there is a right or wrong answer to this are trying to build a golden calf, one way or the other. One way or the other. They have to work together. We have to work together. So, we know this doesn't work out well for the Israelites. They build the golden calf. God says this is not good. There is a judgment pronounced upon them. Some people who would not turn around and admit that they made a mistake, well, have judgment. But the rest of the Israelites turn back around and they say, look, we're sorry. We made a mistake. We take on whatever punishment is necessary, but we want to follow you, Lord. We're with you. And God, as the good father, the good shepherd of the sheep, forgives them, brings them back in, reminds them that they are loved, that they're never alone, that they have a plan and a purpose, and brings them back together with him. He encourages them as individuals and encourages them as a community. This is where we get to this really neat idea that God himself wants to meet with us. You've heard the saying, right? God meets us exactly where we are. And that's an incredible, incredible piece of good news. No matter what you have done in your life, no matter what you are guilty of, no matter what you feel ashamed of, no matter who you are, God comes to you individually and meets you exactly where you are. He doesn't need you to be somebody else before he loves you. He doesn't need you to be perfect before he accepts you. He's right there with you, right where you are. And what happens after this Mount Sinai debacle with the golden calf and people kind of going away is that the way that he brings them back together again and says, look, I want to be with you as you walk along this journey. And so he creates this thing called the tabernacle. Have you heard that word before? It's one of these things that pops up, but we don't often dig into this scripturally to see where it came from, why it happened. This is why it happened. Because God knew that he needed to be present with his people. He needed a place for them to meet with him. So that when they started to stray, when they had difficulty discerning whether me or us is more important, they could go to him personally, communally, and ask for wisdom, ask for favor, ask for guidance. And so they created literally a tent that as these people are walking in the desert, they have a tent set up. And in that tent is the presence of God leading them and walking with them. We often think of that as being part of church, right? About God being with us. We say God is with us all the time. May the Lord be with you, right? Also, may the force be with you. No, see, it's similar, right? But we say that God is with you. Well, in this time, they physically saw God being present with them. It took them about a year to create the tabernacle, and when they did, this is what happened. The cloud of the Lord covered the tent of meeting. The glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses couldn't even enter it because the cloud had settled on it, and the glory of the Lord filled this tabernacle. And so, the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all of the Israelites during all of their travels. Is God with you every day of your life? Yes. Is God with us every day of our lives? Yes. And he makes himself known through this tent of meeting, this traveling tent of meeting for the Israelites during the Exodus. How incredible is that? Guess what? It still exists. Jesus said that this tabernacle now was him. And as he gives us faith and life, guess what he says? What is your body? Is your body a temple? Kind of sounds like a tabernacle, doesn't it? Where does the Spirit live? Within me and within you. Guess where the traveling tent of meeting is? It's in us. God's presence is with us. Wherever we go, wherever we are with others, when we are on our own, he is with us. He will never leave us. He will see us through everything. And the best part about this is that God doesn't just meet us where we are. But what does that tent of meeting do? It travels with you. It travels with you. It shows you the way. When God says, "Be my people, follow my ways," he loves you. He is with you right where you are, but he loves you so much that he's not okay with leaving you exactly how you are. He's going to change you. As you follow him, as you grow in him, as you grow in faith and trust in him, you will be changed for good, for the better. Through this process, in the church we call this discipleship, right? We call it growing in faith. It's a thing that happens across your whole lifetime, and as that happens, you begin to see how to discern between individuality and communal life a little bit more clearly. Here's my final example of this. You ready for this? Let's do this. Here we go. Incredible parable by Jesus. It's very simple. This is all that it is. It's a story that he tells. And I just want you to think about how you understand this story. All right, here's how it goes. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then with great joy went and sold everything that he had and bought the field so that he could possess the treasure, right? Tell me, how do we understand this parable? Who is this man? Is the man you? Okay, well, that's one way to look at it. If it is me, this man, then the way we look at it, that this kingdom of heaven is this treasure hidden in the field, and I am looking for this treasure. I happen upon it somehow. And when I see how incredible Jesus is, when I see that Jesus changes my life, when I see that the kingdom of God is more important than anything else in the world, I sell everything that I have, metaphorically. I sell out to the kingdom of God, and I am his. That's one way to look at it. And I would say that that is somewhat of an individualistic way to look at it. That's about me, right? It's about me finding faith. It's one way to do it. What's another way? Can you think of it communally? Who is the man if this is about us? It's God. Think about this. If this is about us, God is the one who has this great treasure. Oh, wait a second. Didn't he already say he has a great treasure? Remember what this is? See, this all works together, right? We are his treasure. And when he finds us, what does he do? He sells everything that he has, even his son. He gives up everything that is valuable to him, and with great joy buys the field, so that the treasure will always be his. Us and me. Which one is more important? It's a wrong question. They're both incredibly important to God. They're both valuable. They're both treasure. And as we discern in this world which one is more important, we can have different ideas and different debates about it. That's fine. But arguing, getting mad, angry, pushing others aside, treating them in ways where you don't believe that they are God's treasure anymore does not do us any good. It is not good. You are greatly and dearly loved by God. We are greatly and dearly loved by God. Let's live in that truth and make sure that in all of our debates, in all of our discussions, in all the ways we speak to those around us, that is the central point. All right. In the end, we see that God meets you where you are and invites us along his path. Amen.